Mr. President, what net neutrality means is that everyone in our country, and in fact the world, has the same access to the same information. Whether you are a mom and pop store in Hardwick, Vermont, or whether you are Walmart, the largest private corporation in America, you should have the same access to your customers. Net neutrality also means that a blogger, somebody who just blogs out his or her point of view in a small town in America, should have the same access to his or her readers as the New York Times or the Washington Post. If the FCC allows huge corporations to negotiate, quote-unquote, fast-lane deals, then the Internet will eventually be sold to the highest bidder. Companies with the money will have the access, and small businesses will be treated as second or third-class citizens. This is grotesquely unfair, and this will be a disaster for our economy and for small businesses all across our country. I want to take this opportunity to thank Commissioners Clyburn and Rosenworcel for their strong support of net neutrality. They are doing exactly what the American people want from the Commission. During last week's hearing, Commissioner Rosenworcel stated, and I quote, "We cannot have a two-tiered Internet with fast lanes that speed the traffic of the privileged and leave the rest of us lagging behind," end of quote. Commissioner Clyburn noted, quote, "The free and open exchanges of ideas is critical to a democratic society," end of quote. And she is, of course, absolutely right. Now, I have to say, Mr. President, I don't mean to be particularly partisan on this issue, but the facts are the facts, that in contrast, the Republican commissioners, Ajit Pai and Michael O'Reilly, would like to completely deregulate the Internet. Commissioner O'Reilly said in response to the proposal, and I quote, "As I've said before, the premise for imposing net neutrality rules is fundamentally flawed and rests on a faulty foundation of make-believe statutory authority. I have serious concerns that this ill-advised item will create damaging uncertainty and head the Commission down a slippery slope of regulation," end of quote. That is Republican Commissioner O'Reilly. Now, what does all of this mean in English? What it means is that when you talk about deregulating the Internet, you're talking about allowing money, big money, to talk, and allowing the big money interest once again to get their way in Washington. And that is very, very wrong. We cannot allow our democracy once again to be sold to the highest bidder. I think, Mr. President, all of us agree that the Internet has been an enormous success in fostering innovation and enabling free and open speech across the country and throughout the world. We kind of take it for granted. But, Mr. President, when you and I were growing up, there was no Internet. And I think we can all acknowledge now what a huge advance it has been for business and for general communication. Unfortunately, these Republican commissioners on the FCC want to fix a problem that does not exist. What they want is to change the fundamental architecture of the Internet, to remove the neutrality that has been in place for decades since the inception of the Internet, and to allow big corporations to control content online. Mr. President, let me tell you that the American people in Vermont and across this country care very deeply about this issue. A little while ago, in advance of the FCC's vote, on my internet, I asked people in Vermont and throughout the country to share their views with me, to write to me and tell me what they thought about the attempt to do away with net neutrality. And I was blown away by the response that we got. Mr. President, more than 19,000 people have submitted comments to my office so far, and what they are saying in statement after statement after statement is that the FCC has got to defend net neutrality. And I think these 19,000 people represent the vast majority of the people in this country who understand how important net neutrality is. And I just want to take this opportunity and take a very few moments to share some of the comments that I received through my website. Anthony Drake of Moreno Valley, California, said, quote, "Net neutrality is vital for a free and open internet and the economic advantages that it has brought our nation and the world. Please work to reclassify ISPs as common carriers under Title II of the Communications Act," end of quote. Stamford, Vermont resident Roy Gibson concurred, telling the FCC that internet providers, quote, "should be treated like utilities," end of quote, and I agree with Roy Gibson.